Good morning. I'm Keith Adams, Executive Director of NJVOAD. I'm excited to welcome you to our Inspiring Engagement from the Ground Up conference. We're a nonprofit support organization that fosters connections and collaborations among community organizations to equip and support them in their everyday missions. Why? Because we believe that this builds stronger, more resilient communities, both for everyday and in the face of major disruptive events. We're the New Jersey affiliate of National VOAD, a coalition of organizations and agencies that contribute to developing and sustaining community resiliency throughout the disaster cycle. We facilitate and foster communication, cooperation, coordination, and collaboration among members and partners to improve preparedness, resilience, response, and recovery, which results in more effective outcomes. Our volunteers, members, and partners from the community, nonprofit, faith-based, government, academic, corporate, and philanthropic sectors represent a powerful force for good in New Jersey. Today, we find ourselves at that time of the year that when we remember many of the disruptive events that have significantly affected New Jersey, such as 9/11, 20 years ago now, Superstorm Sandy, 10 years on the 29th, and Hurricane Ida just 1 year ago on September 1st. And also the many less memorable events. Our communities also are affected by the everyday challenges of food and housing insecurity, systemic racism, economic and environmental injustice, fires, floods, and more. Volunteers and volunteer organizations serve on the front lines, helping individuals, households, and communities prepare, respond, and recover from these events. And we know from experience that we can do extraordinary things when we work together. New Jersey VOAD is proud to support our communities, organizations, partners, and volunteers in this, and we welcome you to today's conference. My hope today is that you will learn something that you didn't already know, but more importantly, that you take the opportunity to connect and network with someone new. To paraphrase Dr. Seuss, who knows the places we will go together. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the generosity of our key sponsors today, without whom this conference could not be possible. The American Association of Retired Persons, AmeriCorps, and the New Jersey Volunteer Generation Fund. Thank you for your support. Our spotlight video highlights the partnership between Church by the Bay in Galloway, New Jersey, and the New Jersey State Police. Let's take a look at their incredible collaboration serving vulnerable communities.
One of our retired troopers, Lieutenant Schaefer, and I were talking one day because I served as a New Jersey State Police chaplain, and he said, well, can we do anything with your church? I'm like, it would be great if you could come to Atlantic City and engage the community while we're distributing clothing and food and things of that nature. And that's where it started.
That was, to this day, in my almost 28 years of law enforcement, maybe one of the most powerful days. We had about a dozen horses down there, aside from the clothing and the food mission. When we went into the apartment complexes, and from 4 to 84, those horses are like magnets for people, and they came out, and we created an opportunity for them to see us in a different light, not around yellow crime scene tape, not in a negative way, and to have kids in the saddle with you, engaging in conversation, and to see mothers and fathers lit up. Those horses really were the spark to kicking off just a phenomenal partnership, and it's been nothing but spectacular.
The interesting part is this: if you've ever shopped in a department store on a busy day, there's always clothing on the ground. We don't have to pick stuff up off the ground because the people feel so blessed by the fact that somebody cared enough to put it on a hanger that if something falls to the ground, they will pick it up and make sure it gets reused.
I think for me, I know me personally, I was adopted. I grew up poor, so I was one of those people who my parents needed food. I didn't have a jacket in the winter. I grew up in upstate New York, so I was that kid that didn't have a jacket. And I think one of my first events, I was out there with Pastor Lou, and there was a family of 3 children that came by, and one of the boys, the mom said, "You wouldn't happen to have a jacket, boy's jacket, would you?" And I know Pastor Lou went out of his way to try to find one, and we looked at every rack, and I know I went home that night and just told my wife we're gonna go buy a boy's jacket. But I saw myself there because I was that boy that didn't have a jacket. I had one pair of jeans that I would wear continuously and had holes in them before holes were commonplace now. But that's impactful to me to be there. I knew I was that kid. So when I'm out there and I see that, I want to get my children and my family and the troopers involved and know that listen, you don't know anybody's situation. And it could be different things that brought them to where they're there or why they're there. But bringing them there and having the dignity to be able to go through and, as Pastor Lou likes to say, give them the dignity to go off the shopping racks. So that's where it's impacted me the most.
We like to refer to as humanizing the badge. So those people in our communities don't think of us as that trooper in the rearview mirror, but more as brothers and sisters willing to spend a Saturday clothing them, feeding them. It's a phenomenal way to engage with our community throughout New Jersey.
It's all volunteer based, and even the troopers that come out, there are so many troopers that come out on their time, and even the troopers that are in administrative positions, they've got piles of work on their desk, but they get so much out of joining with us and really celebrating this partnership, because it's not a preachy partnership. It's a let's get it done. Let's see what the needs are and let's make it happen. When we have troopers that perhaps are having some difficulty in their own personal lives, they come out there and they feel so empowered and so positive when they leave, like, look at what we did today. And it's an incredible opportunity for us to work together.
This project's helped impact me in a way where I just understand the community's needs, how we can help support them. It makes you extremely compassionate, and there's a lot of things that I didn't understand prior. I did grow up in Atlantic City. My parents were born and raised in Atlantic City, and just realizing how many veterans struggle and how they come back and they just don't have the supports that they need. That's really been eye-opening for me personally. So just watching children struggle and not have what they need, their parents want to give them everything, and they just, they're out there trying to give them as best as they can.
There's something contagious about volunteerism, and those that give really do receive more, whether that's missions here, whether the missions we've both been on around the country and world. There is something certainly contagious about it, and I think that's what draws people in, that once you feel that joy in serving others, that it's something that you want to continue to do. It's almost addicting.
Yes.
Troopers should volunteer, and they do volunteer. We really don't have an issue with them wanting to do this. It gives them that sense of fulfillment of why we all first signed up for this job. Sometimes when you're out on the road and you're just responding to calls, you don't get to see the good side of everything. You don't get to interact with community in that different light. So it helps you relate to the people that you're responding to and understand each other and work with each other. So it's been great for us, whether it's just working with the children or working with the people in the streets that need the assistance. Everybody wants to be involved across the board, which, it's amazing. It really is. So, I go out there and I do this every day, but the road troopers, they want to be part of this as well.
So we just try to push that it's not just, as I said, humanize the badge. You want these troopers to go out and really be part of the community, build that relationship back up that's kind of gotten lost over the years.
And to have an opportunity to create situations where it's so uplifting and positive, it almost is the antidote for some of the negativity that we're exposed to. And we all know physically it's important that we're in shape, but we also need to be mentally resilient. And I think our partnership highlights that and the benefits of that to our troopers. That I think everybody that we serve and that serve us, quite frankly, walk away from there with maybe a different perception about their own community certainly I hope about the state police, that that this French blue uniform should instill a sense of calm and respect and grace, and not one of fear or chaos. And that's my hope too, as we see that interaction unfold throughout every time we've gone in force.
And that's about the talents. We've all been given certain talents, and we can either invest them, because we all don't even know what our talents are sometimes. Or we take a trooper who's never been in a volunteer situation that has been organized by another agency, and all of a sudden they're able to go out there and change their heart. They're utilizing the talents that God has given them, that God has provided them. They're not burying them in the ground, and they will only multiply. And when we see that multiplication, it enhances all of us. And I think that's where volunteerism comes in. I have a saying, volunteers are priceless, because we can't do anything without volunteers. In any agency, in any facet of society, we need volunteers, not to supplement, but to enhance. And that's where I think we need to go.
The most commonplace thing for people to do is they give or help after a natural disaster, a flood, a hurricane or tornado, or maybe a house fire. The crisis is year-long. People are hungry, people don't have the clothing that they need during the cold months. We should try to encourage everyone to do it year-round.
I think that people should help volunteer in their communities because it helps strengthen the communities. It makes a stronger community together.
What a great partnership that we see between the state police and Church by the Bay and others as they serve these communities and harness the power of volunteers from multiple sectors to support our citizens. Thanks. Next, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, the Honorable Andy Kim. Representing the 3rd Congressional District of New Jersey, Congressman Kim has dedicated his life to serving the country. He worked as a career public servant under both Democrats and Republicans, having served at USAID, the Pentagon, the State Department, the White House National Security Council, and in Afghanistan as an advisor to Generals Petraeus and Allen. In the House of Representatives, Congressman Kim is working on an agenda to bring this country together and strengthen its national and economic security. He supports strong measures that boost our economy by investing in small business and innovation, creating fairness and opportunities for working families, and honoring America's promises to military families and veterans. Congressman Kim and his wife are currently raising 2 little boys just down the street from where he grew up. Congressman Kim.
Hi, everyone. I'm Congressman Andy Kim, and I just want to say thank you so much for giving me a chance to be able to engage and talk with all of you right now. This is an incredible conference you have, and thank you so much to the organizers for pulling it together. And to have this chance to be able to engage one another about what it means right now to be able to work within our community, to be able to be of service to one another, to step up in those different ways. That's something that you all have been doing for so long, whether it's about the preparations and engagements and response when it comes to a disaster, or about other efforts that we can do to lift up volunteerism within our community. You all have been at the forefront of this, and you've learned so many great lessons about this. This is something that has been a big part of my life as well. I'm somebody that very much grew up in a household that talked a lot about and engaged a lot about what it means to be of service, what it means to be someone that is working towards that bigger means. My mom was a nurse, and my father was a researcher trying to cure cancer and Alzheimer's. They very much saw their jobs as service to the community. They taught me this line. They said that service isn't just a job, it's a way of life. It's about our fundamental ways to be able to interact and engage each other, about our relationships to one another. Regardless of whether we are friends or family or strangers, we have a responsibility to one another. That service is this recognition that we are part of something bigger than all of us, that we have to engage, we have to work together. And this is something that has shaped and guided my entire career and my entire life, and something that I try to partner with others who share that like-mindedness, and all of you do. I think what we fundamentally understand about this relationship to one another is that it's not transactional. It's built off of this sense of community. And that word community is so important to this all, that we recognize that we have again, this sense that we're part of something bigger than all of us, that we are all in the same boat. This recognition, not just of shared responsibility, but then a recognition of shared destiny, that we will get to where we go together, that my success is your success, that your success is my success, that we can make sure that we're pushing forward on this. And that's what makes this country so strong. It was the fundamental motto of our country early on, this E pluribus unum. It is these are the words that are inscribed in the ceiling of the Oval Office. I had the chance to be able to work there at the White House for 2 years. And I always remember whenever I went into the Oval Office, being able to look up and see the great seal of the United States and see those words of E pluribus unum. These same words are painted in the mural on the ceiling of the Capitol Dome. E pluribus unum, showing that it is about coming together as one. This sense of action, this sense of collectivity is what this country was founded on. And in my opinion, from everything that I've learned and everything I've experienced when it comes to my work, what allows that to happen, what allows that to occur, the many turning into one, is service. That is the fundamental verb and the fundamental action that is occurring, that we can be of service to one another. And I hope that that is something that we can continue to promote going forward. It is tough. I know we live in challenging times right now. We live in a time when it feels like we live in a country right now that's addicted to anger, that we're losing touch to be able to connect with each other. In many ways, I call this a crisis of empathy that we're experiencing right now. We're losing touch with what it means to be able to see the world through someone else's eyes, what it means to walk in someone else's shoes, to try to understand and reflect upon the pains and the struggles of others. This is something that we're going to have to confront. We're going to have to confront this as a community, as a country. This challenge of focusing only on oneself and what that means could deal a very devastating blow to our democracy. So when we're talking here about service, when we're talking about volunteerism, what we're talking about is the kind of selflessness and the kind of directed empathy that made our country so strong and can continue to make our country strong. So by participating in this, all of you engaging in these efforts for us to be able to move forward together, that's what's going to keep us strong. I've introduced a number of pieces of legislation in my time in Congress that are geared towards trying to rejuvenate this sense of collectivity, this sense of e pluribus unum, this sense of service. I've proposed a national service program where we can really take the volunteerism and the service to the next level, to be able to have young Americans throughout this entire country be able to get energized by the idea of working and serving and volunteering with your own communities. That this is, in my opinion, the key element of us trying to figure out how to turn the corner and be able to restore the kind of respect for one another that this democracy deserves and this democracy needs. So what you all are doing, this isn't just about helping those in their time of great need. It's about restoring a foundation of decency and respect in this country. So I hope you see the role that you are playing magnified out. Yes, it's so important for us to be looking out for people in their time of great need. That's something that has always driven me. Perhaps it was, again, because my mother was a nurse and saw people in some of their toughest and darkest and most difficult hours. I dedicated my career to trying to address those types of challenges. I worked at the Chicago Coalition of the Homeless when I was in college, worked as an organizer trying to address the challenges that people were facing when they lost a roof over their head, when they would go to bed hungry on the streets. I then worked at the United States Agency for International Development, where I was working on teams that were trying to pre-position humanitarian assistance ahead of disasters to be able to respond to that, figure out what role the United States could play in being able to respond to crises all over this globe, to be able to remember that we are the richest, most powerful country in the world. And we have a responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to the broader humanity. That was incredibly important for me to recognize and see, whether that was visiting refugee camps or going out to war-torn countries. I've continued that work as a diplomat, working on counterterrorism, working to address these actors that were trying to prey upon young people in their community to recruit them into the fight. I've seen how they took on board child soldiers and exploited them to be able to go and fight their wars for them. These cowards that were using children for their means of terrorism, it was horrific. I also saw how our country can respond to that, though, to try to help bring these conflicts to a close, to try to address the humanitarian crisis that came about because of it, and try to come up with ways for us to be able to be helpful going forward for a greater level of sustainability and stability for these people. We can do that abroad, we can do that at home, but we can't do that, again, unless people engage, unless we light that fire under people right now, especially young people, to be able to say that this is meaningful, that this is something great. I know for me, my mom always used to bring me to the hospital to volunteer on weekends. And I just didn't understand it at that time. I thought about it as an experience to check a box. I would go and check a box. I keep track of my hours. I thought about this service in terms of extracurriculars. I thought about it as something that might make my college application a little bit more interesting and stand out a little bit more. I didn't understand the fundamentals of what it really meant to be of service. I didn't learn the heart of it at that time. But when I was going through college, and certainly when 9/11 happened while I was in college, it really hit home to me again, this sense of deeper purpose. This idea of a North Star, about making sure that we recognize that we can try to aim for something big, that we can try to be a part of change that is so incredibly important, but recognizing it doesn't just happen on its own. I often say, progress in America is not inevitable. You have to fight for it. You got to want it. But you also got to know where you're trying to go. And that kind of effort is something that all of us hopefully can relate to. And we do it on whatever scale we can. It's not always about the big items. It's not, and even in Congress, it's not always about the legislation that's proposing hundreds of billions of dollars in spending and major shifts in American government. It's about the little things, about the incremental, about each of us doing our part, about trying to cultivate and shape a new generation of Americans to understand the importance of service, the importance of looking out for one another, to find value in that, to not think about it as transactional, to not think about it as simply checking the box exercise. I believe that service doesn't have to be sacrificed. It's not just about spending your hours, your time, your day to be able to do something just charitable. Again, it's deeper than that. It's about recognizing that responsibility that comes with it. And I know you all understand that, but work with me. I'd love to be able to work with you on how we can promote that, how we can expand that, how we can scale that so that we can have the kind of engagement in this country that we know we need. We live at a pivotal moment right now. I really do believe that the next few years will shape the next few decades of this country. And right now, I am a father. I got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, 2 little boys that are growing up real fast. But I am so worried about what kind of country they're going to grow up in. I'm worried by all the challenges that we see, that we know this is a very unpredictable moment, and we know that there's a lot of anxiety about what comes next. So I am asking for your help, that we can try to work together to try to address these challenges and build up the kind of engagement that this country needs and deserves. I've been saying a lot lately this line. What I say is that the opposite of democracy is, in my opinion, apathy. It's if we give in to the helplessness out there, if we feel like we don't matter, whether it's our vote or our actions. With so much going on right now, it's easy to feel like, what difference does one person make? What difference does one gesture of action or volunteerism make when we have so much going on? And I hope we don't give in to that helplessness. I hope instead we heed and respond to a call to serve, that we recognize that we can choose which direction we go to as a country. And I, for one, choose engagement. I choose democracy. I choose a country that still believes that our collective voice, that our equality across our country and our democracy is still the right way to go. That we don't divide up between the haves and the have-nots, but instead recognize that each of us have great moral qualities, great moral equality in the broader context. And that's, again, why when we serve, we can feel that purpose, that we're helping each other, that we can give to each other and be able to lift each other up. That sense of community should be our project, should be our life's work, about creating a community that is as strong and vibrant as we could ever imagine. This community that I live in is my home. I have the great honor of being able to represent in Congress the community where I went to kindergarten. I did my entire kindergarten through 12 in the public school system of the congressional district I now represent. And now I get to raise my 2 kids, as I mentioned. My youngest in kindergarten now, I go full circle in terms of our family. I take my kids sledding on the same hills that I went sledding on when I was their age. There is the greatness there about what we choose here in New Jersey and across this country to push forward on. I want to make sure that we do that as strong as we can. So I'm ready to keep rolling up my sleeves, to keep working, to keep serving, to keep finding places where we can volunteer and engage our local communities and have that ripple effect and that engagement across our state and across the country. You all have been on that project too, and I encourage you to keep it up. Thank you for what you've done, collectively and individually. Thank you for continuing to push that forward. And I hope this conference reignites that fire that I know you already have had, but hopefully it's something that makes it burn brighter, that we can achieve great things, but we cannot do it alone. We need each other. We need to look out to each other and make sure we build that country in that kind of foundation. So thank you again for having me. Thank you for letting me be a part of this and be able to share a few words with all of you. I really mean it when I say we're stronger because of you and everything that you've done. So I wish you well, keep up the good work, and let's continue to fight hard for the future. Take care.
Thank you, Congressman, for your inspiring words. We're ready to roll up our sleeves and choose engagement every day just like you do.
This is your moment to take the path less traveled, to break the status quo, to stop talking about the problem and be the solution. This is your moment to create your own future, to bring people together and seek common ground. This is your moment to make our country safer, smarter, and healthier. You can inspire a kid to a brighter future, build a house for a family in need, or rebuild a community after disaster. Work in the wilderness to protect our public lands, help a veteran find a home, a job, or a mentor. This is your moment to shape the future. This is your moment to be the greater good. Join AmeriCorps.
It is now my pleasure to introduce someone else who chooses engagement every day, our New Jersey Secretary of State, Tahesha Way. Serving as New Jersey's 34th Secretary of State since September of 2018, Ms. Way holds one of the nation's oldest constitutional offices and leads a department with a diverse portfolio. She serves as New Jersey's top election official, overseeing the State Division of Elections and its work in securing our democracy and ensuring broad, fair access to the right to vote. She also chaired New Jersey's Complete Count Commission, a 27-member nonpartisan commission established to achieve a complete count in the 2020 U.S. Census. In addition to the critical work protecting what Secretary Way calls the fraternal twins of democracy, she also oversees the state government offices supporting New Jersey's vibrant arts, culture, history, and business communities. Secretary Way also serves as the president of the National Association of Secretaries of State. Throughout her career, she has devoted herself to public service, serving as an administrative law judge, freeholder director, and more. She's a graduate of Brown University and holds a Juris Doctorate from the University of Virginia School of Law at Charlottesville. Secretary Way lives in Passaic County with her husband and their children. Secretary Way.
Good morning, volunteers from all parts of the great state of New Jersey. I am pleased to join you at the annual NJVOAD conference, which brings together our dedicated volunteers, emergency responders, nonprofit and corporate managers, and national service members. I'm so glad we have the opportunity to come together virtually and learn from each other, share experience, and network. This is also a time when we can recognize the great service that is taking place each day to plan for emergencies and disasters, protect our environment, assist and educate our children, and build resiliency from the ground up. On behalf of Governor Murphy, I want to acknowledge the 1.8 million New Jerseyans who collectively spent 160 million hours volunteering each year. You help to make New Jersey such a great place to live, work, and raise families. And at the national level, the president has recently inaugurated the United We Stand initiative, recognizing that through service and working together in common cause, we can strengthen and rebuild communities and overcome the voices of disrespect and disunity. If we are gathered together to plan for emergencies or to rebuild parks and homes after a disaster, we are working hand in hand no matter what our backgrounds. For this, we express our appreciation to NJVOAD for decades. NJVOAD has been the convening agency that brings all of us together for the 4 C's: communication, cooperation, coordination, and collaboration. Our team at the Office of Volunteerism appreciates the work of Keith Adams, Linda Hardy, and all of the NJVOAD partners. I also want to give a special thank you to New Jersey's AmeriCorps members who devote a year or more to serving in communities all around the state. Now, We saw the results of these collaborative efforts during the recovery from Superstorm Sandy and during our long recovery from the pandemic. It was volunteers like yourselves who accomplished so much. You packed and delivered food to those who could not leave their homes. You checked in with senior citizens and disabled residents who were isolated. You worked with the Department of Health and the Medical Reserve Corps to organize vaccine and testing locations. And you worked with our New Jersey Office of Emergency Management and FEMA to provide PPE to congregate facilities, schools, faith-based groups, and tribal communities. These last few years have been difficult, but each of you found ways to overcome the challenges our communities face and give yourselves in service to others. We are so grateful for you stepping up to help those around you get through these unprecedented times. As Dr. King reminded us, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. Today is an opportunity to reflect on this thought, to recognize the value of all that you contribute and to plan together for the future. Thank you. I know you have a great day together.
Thank you, Secretary Way, for your welcome and for your commitment to service and the state of New Jersey.
The New Jersey Volunteer Generation Fund program, established in 2017, was designed to build volunteer management capacity in nonprofit, faith-based, educational, and other civic organizations, working with New Jersey's 1.8 million volunteers. The program supports recruitment, management, and retention of volunteers, expanding and improving volunteer capacity throughout the state, even throughout the pandemic, from food delivery services to the elderly and at risk. Crocheting sweaters for kittens. Sewing masks for our healthcare heroes. New Jersey's volunteers have been Jersey strong throughout the pandemic. You are Jersey strong, and you too can be a volunteer.